What's up, knife freaks, sharpness geeks, and purveyors of stabby goodness? Welcome to the Knife Freak Show. My name is Jonathan McNeese. My co-host, Miss Amy McNeese.
What's up, guys?
All right, so we have an exciting week coming up.
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
You have to count it as 2 weeks.
Yeah, well, the excitement will come this week. The fatigue will be the next week. So tell them what we got going on.
We have Blade Show Texas coming up this Friday and Saturday in Dallas, Fort Worth at the Fort Worth Convention Center. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
So we hope everybody comes out and sees us, says hi.
Absolutely. And probably should have looked up our booth number before hopped on here. I'll look for it in a minute while you're talking or something. But we're not that hard to find. It's a decent sized show. If you've been to Blade Show Atlanta, it's going to feel a little small. If you've been to any other just normal knife shows, it's probably going to feel pretty large. It is probably the second largest blade show that they do. So it's a decent sized show, but we're kind of right back in the middle in the booth section. So she's gonna find a number for you there. I was ill prepared. I should have known, but they changed it from last year. We're in more or less the same location, but they changed our numbers. So I know we're right next to our buddy Doug from Attention to Detail Mercantile. So find us both and come say hello. So today we thought we would maybe, at least for the first half of the show, talk a little bit about the show goings on in general. I know Chase and I have talked about some of it before leading up to shows last year, but I thought it would be really interesting to get a little different perspective from Amy, since she's been doing shows with me since the very beginning. Like, she's done every single show with me, and like she'd been right there, a part of it from the beginning. So that's been what?
A million years.
It's been a long time.
Looks like we're booth 309.
309, booth 309 at Texas. We'll remind you again at the end, but so booth 309, come by and see us. But yeah, I think this is like our 17th, right? This might be our 18th year doing shows. It's been quite a while. So we've seen a lot. We've seen the shows grow.
Definitely our 18th year doing shows. I just can't remember if we exhibited that year or if we exhibited the next year.
Yeah, we went one year to Blade Show Atlanta, and then the next as attendees, and I had some knives I'd made. I showed around other knife makers and stuff and got some feedback, and then the very next year we were there exhibiting.
And we did not do any brown bagging.
Done it ever since. No, I did not do any brown bagging. I was not selling knives. I was strictly taking them around to show them to other makers and stuff and get feedback from them. I didn't sell anything. I did it the right way, which might as well lead off with that. Don't brown bag at the show, guys. If you don't know what brown bagging is, that means if you do not have a table, if you did not pay to be there and sell your goods, then don't be selling your goods. All right, that's what it boils down to. Now, if you're a collector or something and there are dealers there that set up and buy, secondhand knives and stuff, totally different story. But if you are a maker and you have a product and you are there walking around or whatever, do not be selling your stuff. Don't be trying to be low key about it. I've even seen people do it with crap like patches and lanyard beads and lanyards and stuff like that. They'll walk around with them hanging all off their backpacks and stuff, essentially like low key advertising, and it's just not cool, guys. Those of us that do the show, we pay a whole lot of money to set up at the show, and then to have people coming in and basically just, it's like kind of like cutting the line or whatever. It's not cool. And they will kick you out of the show and probably ban you for life if I don't know for sure about the banning for life, but probably.
I think they're cracking down big time on everything this year from what the email reads. So
yeah, they sent out an email with some, the rules weren't really new rules, but sound like they were getting way more serious about them. Some of the stuff as far as makers staying at their booth or their table till the show was over and that kind of stuff, not packing up and going home early. That's something we can touch on in a little bit, actually, as part of kind of how we've always done things versus some of the stuff that we've seen at shows. So let's see. I'm trying to think if there's any more technical stuff. Not really. So let's jump into it. Like I said, I'd like to hear from your perspective. Chase and I have talked about it, and I think even though you're part of this company, I think it's still a little different for you. I think you get to observe it through a slightly different lens maybe than I do. So just kind of give me your thoughts on, I don't know, just what you think about shows in general, good, bad, and ugly.
Well, I don't think it's any secret that I would literally never attend another show in my life if I didn't have to.
Yeah.
Not because I don't love seeing everybody, but um, and I can talk to anybody and everybody all day long. Like my background is sales, but it drains the life out of me. When I say recover for the next week, I mean I will be recovering for the next week. You, on the other hand, I think it's because you don't get to talk to anybody ever. um, we'll talk for 2 days straight and be very energized from it.
I think it's a personality type difference, which is kind of crazy because at least in the beginning, years ago, I would not have guessed this, but like, so even though you would never know, those of you that know Amy and have talked to her, you would never guess it, I guarantee you, but she's actually an introvert. She does extremely well at talking to people and everything, and you would never guess it, but it, the definition I've read of whether you can tell if you're an introvert or an extrovert is basically if you're around people and stuff like that, it's when you get finished, like she said, if it either feels like it's draining all of your energy, then you're an introvert, and because it takes energy away from you to be around people. Extrovert's the exact opposite. You actually get energy from people, and that's how I am. Like, and it's I get just super pumped up at shows and stuff. I lay down at night after a hard day of the show all day, and I have a hard time going to sleep. I've got all the conversations played in my head, and it just I get super excited,
And it is really funny because I would have guessed the opposite.
yeah,
Like I would have never thought I was an introvert, but
right.
clearly I am.
And at one point, I would have never thought that I was an extrovert, but again, I think it's based on that definition at least. It seems pretty accurate. So, but yeah, it will take a lot of it, and it does physically and mentally take out of me too, but not. I feel like it's more of a recharge almost for me, and
Well, I think two things. Even though it does drain me, it is very refreshing to see everybody in person, to see how kind people are when you don't see, I mean, we see the shop people. Like
yeah,
we literally live in the middle of nowhere. I mean, we see our friends, some, not very much, but definitely not as much as I wish we had time to. Um, but we really don't see people because we're in the middle of nowhere and we work all the time. So, we interact through email or social media or whatever, but as far as like actually seeing people in person, I think it reminds us why we do this, right?
oh, for 100%, and I think that she kind of gets the bad end of the deal on that because I do most of the social media stuff and most of the interactions on social media or well, let me back that up. Most of the interactions on Instagram and probably on YouTube, the comments we get on there, that's typically me corresponding with people on there. With email, it's the other way around with her. So what you got to realize is the vast majority of emails that we get as a company or because somebody has a problem with something, whether it's, they mess something up on their order and they need something changed, whether it's, a warranty issue with a knife, or more often an issue with something that they bought on the secondary and they're trying to get it back up to normal, whatever. Either way, I mean, none of the stuff is really bad, but it's like you basically get to, it's kind of like when you turn on the news and all you get is pretty much, you get like 95, 98% negative stories, and then you get like the one feel good story maybe thrown in here and there. That's kind of like the way the email is for us. 98, 99% of the emails are people needing problems solved, which is totally fine. But it does wear on you when that's all you ever communicate with customers. It feels like that every customer out there is having problems, but in the
And
reality,
that's not all. Sometimes we get
no,
some really
we do.
sweet, kind emails
Right.
that I love.
Hint, hint. We'll take more of those. They do that. Those are extremely refreshing when we get the, I got my knife in and I love it. And we know that people, because we see it on social media, we know that there's more people out there that are feeling that way. You just don't get that direct communication with them as much through email. Most people, you know, don't take the time to stop and send a message in because they're happy. that's just usually that's kind of human nature.
Well, and lately we've been getting those random responses to our targeted emails that are kind of really rude.
A few of them, yeah.
And I'm
But
just
that's
like,
part of it. You start hitting people's email box and trying to give them reminders about, hey, you left this in your cart, that kind of stuff. Sometimes some people get irritated about it, but that's part of the game we have to play. I mean, we're a business. We have to send out emails, so that's just part of it.
you can unsubscribe though.
Yeah.
Probably easier than sending me an ugly email.
Yeah, it definitely help her mood for sure. So, but again, that's so the majority of what she sees, I actually see, I would say on social media, you always see, there's issues on there occasionally too, and people just being jackasses and stuff. But the vast majority of it is positive on social media, and I get to see, especially on Instagram. Facebook's a little bit different. It tends to be a little heavier mix of negative, it seems like. But
I do like Instagram
yeah,
much better.
yeah, I don't know. It's just a different platform. People, even some of the, I think it attracts a different kind of people, and some of the people that are on both, for whatever reason, they seem to behave differently on Instagram, and I don't know what that's about. But that's kind of a topic for another day. But in other words, I get to see mostly the good stuff, and I don't do a good enough job of like pointing that out to her. Even though I know she sees some of it, she's not going as in depth and reading all the DMs and stuff like I am. So like she said, when we go to shows, it's very refreshing for me too to get the feedback. And you're getting to communicate with people face to face. It can be really hard to get emotion and tone and everything to come through with an email or a text or whatever. So it's really nice to be able to see people in person, see how excited they are, see how much they actually enjoy what we do, and it's extremely refreshing. Like every show we come back, I come back kind of refreshed as far as like my creative itch is usually refreshed, partly through conversations with people and people talking about things that they want to see, likes and dislikes about what we're doing, just getting feedback, and it gets my wheels to turning. But then also the, kind of the emotional side of it, of getting to hear all the stories and see all the people that appreciate what we're doing and stuff. And so, and you end up very much, for a little while, at least after a show, kind of being a little more positively charged after a show, which is always really nice. So, all right, so let's go ahead and knock some pet peeves out at shows. Throw me out a couple of pet peeves that you've seen at shows that you don't like. Putting her on the spot here.
I don't know.
Whether it be from, it could be from customers or from other vendors or whatever. I'm trying to think what I even have. That's.
I, I mean,
I'll throw one out there, and it's a rare one, and it happens, and it's okay. But when somebody comes up and like drops a knife, and which we've had happen quite a bit with our autos, particularly.
It's always a guy.
Yeah.
It's never a kid. It's never a woman. They can open knives.
Yeah.
It is always a guy. And then he just drops it, doesn't even look at you, throws it back on the table and walks away.
Yeah. And honestly, it's not the dropping part that I mind. It's going to happen. It's the ones that kind of just don't even say, oh, I'm sorry or anything. They just kind of, and I get it. They're embarrassed and they, it's
because again, it's always a guy.
Yeah. It's always a guy. So
usually a big, tough looking guy.
Yeah. Yeah. It's never the people that you think are going to drop it that drop it. They always seem to be like ninjas and they're totally fine. But that's one. Another thing that I don't like is just kind of people doing this rude stuff at the table in general. And again, Chase and I have talked about some of it, coming up and wanting to set stuff down on your table. We've had people spill drinks on our table. We've had people bleed on our table, which
people cut themselves at another table and come over to our table and bleed on our stuff, asking for it.
Which again, that's we don't mind helping somebody, but that's not that big of a deal. But the people that come up and kind of are unaware that you've got thousands, maybe tens of thousands of dollars worth of stuff spread out on a table, and then they're coming up and just kind of being a little oblivious to, to what they're doing. And that doesn't happen very often.
No, I
But
think for the majority, people are
most,
there and they know what they're doing. And
yeah, most people are very respectful and have common courtesy. Um, Another one that I don't like is when people come up and they do a big wrist flick to open the knife. That's because that's like, I'm like, dude, like that is not what the knife is designed to do. It's going to put extra wear and tear on the knife. I don't care what knife it is. You start slamming metal pieces together way harder than they're supposed to be slammed together, and it's going to cause wear and tear issues. And so, I always try to educate them and show them, hey, look, this is how you can open it. Just, you don't even have to use your wrist or whatever, without try to do it without being insulting, because I know, again, they're not meaning to do anything wrong. That's just all they know. That's how they are used to opening knives. Nobody's ever taught them how to open with a thumb stud correctly or something like that, but or a flipper. It's just kind of a lack of education, a little bit of a lack of awareness. But
I do have one that happened last year at Late Atlanta that I really hope does not continue to grow as a trend. But people asking about our website, wanting to us to hire them for services related to our
uh,
search engine optimization and stuff like that. Like that's
yeah,
definitely not the place for that.
solicitation, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and that's you're going to have a certain amount of solicitation is expected. It shows like you have people,
And we love to be solicited by dealers and people who want to represent our products
and
and stuff like
suppliers that
that.
have materials to offer, services to offer, whatever. But when it comes to something kind of generic like website stuff or whatever, like those people are probably not even actually in the knife world. They're just hitting up every trade show they can find to try to you know drum up business. And
Which
so,
is why I said I really hope that doesn't grow
yeah,
into a
I hope that doesn't either. But yeah, that can be a little bit annoying. But and you know out of the people that come and solicit us, I mean, there's a very small percentage that ever turns into anything. But still, that's not. I mean, that's just part of it. It's a trade show, so we're mainly there for the customers to see our goods and to be able to talk to them. But it's we're other people's customers too, so it all plays into it. That's one of those things. But yeah, that part of it was a little bit annoying. Um, I had another one pop in my head while you were saying that, and I don't know what it was. But oh, I was going to say the people that come up, and you have other people that are not rude, and some people almost take it too far to the other extreme. Like they're so polite that like they're almost like super scared to pick anything up. They're like, and it's like, man, that's why we're here. We want you to feel the knife. Like, how else are you going to know? Especially if you've never handled one. Like that's exactly why we're here. I always appreciate when somebody asks if they can pick it up first. It does not make me mad if they don't ask. I mean, I think the way we have our knives displayed and stuff typically is pretty obvious that we're okay with people handling stuff. But I'm certainly not going to be holding it against somebody if they don't ask. But at the same time, I would much rather somebody just go ahead and pick one up than to be too shy you know to pick one up. And I usually try to tell them, if I can tell that they look interested, I'm like, hey, pick it up, check it out, that kind of stuff. But sometimes we're in conversation with two or three people at the same time, and it'll somebody slipped through the cracks, and I can tell out of the corner of my eye that they're trying to, they want to look at stuff, but then they're kind of a little too shy to. So like, guys, don't be afraid. If there's something you want to look at and you want to handle at the show, that's your chance. That's why you're there. So by all means, check it out. It's be a shame to go and have an opportunity to hold something that, check something out that you've been interested in and then pass that opportunity up. I know for us, I for sure want you to handle it, because I feel like if you can handle our knives and feel of them and feel the action and stuff, you're going to be like greatly more likely to purchase, whether it be then at the show or down the road. It's gonna stick with you. If we're doing a good job with our product, then I absolutely want people putting it in their hands, because I feel like that's one step closer to them deciding to pull the trigger on one.
Well, and for everywhere except Atlanta, it's just you and I.
Mm.
So, I mean, we may be tied up talking to five other people. Like it,
Yeah.
and we hate to miss people, but
But it happens sometimes.
it
We'll have
does.
people that we're just, you have to choose. Like you feel like you're being rude to the person that you're talking to stop and start interacting with somebody else. But then at the same time, you don't want them to walk away from the table and not having a chance to speak to them. So it can be tough trying to balance all that. So just know that if us or somebody else, if you're at a table and you're talking to somebody, and it's usually when we're having, somebody's coming up that we're having a more lengthy conversation with, and then somebody else will come up, and a lot of times I'll have to just kind of break away and be like,
or at the beginning of the show when everything
when it's a big rush. Yeah, it makes it really difficult to try to do it. So just be understanding and know that if something, I know for us, can probably speak for most of the other vendors there too. Not everybody has the same personalities and outlook, but I know for us that, we absolutely want to talk to everybody that's there that's interested in talking to us. It just sometimes logistically we cannot talk to everybody all at the same time. So by all means, come back around later, or or whatever. That's we want to talk to everybody that we possibly can. So no, don't be shy. That's why we're there. Like, it's a very boring and pretty disappointing show if it would be. We've never really had a problem with having enough people to talk to, but it makes the show go by a lot slower if you ever do have a little bit of dead time or something. The show really drags on. So we want to be busy talking to people. That's why we're there. That's what, being productive for us looks like at a show. It's not just selling. That's probably another good point for some of the other, like, makers, or people that are aspiring to be makers out there. Don't completely worry about just what you sell at the show, because a lot of times the results that you're going to get from doing a show and talking to people and people seeing your product and everything and handling your product, those may show up over the next 6 months to a year, right? So you can't just look at it as, okay, my show was successful because I sold out, or it wasn't successful because I didn't sell out, or whatever. Like there's a lot that goes into it after the fact of, the kind of ripple effect of people getting to, or some people pick stuff up from you at the show and then they start showing it to people and word of mouth spreads. Like, there's a lot of ways that shows can be helpful down the road, and you cannot just measure it by how much money is in your pocket at the end of the show or how many knives you have left from the table. Everybody wants to sell out. Everybody wants to make as much money as they can at the show. And I know a lot of makers try to balance, okay, the show cost me X amount to do. I had to spend, money on the table, money on a hotel room, eating out while I'm here, travel to get here. You know, Usually others, most of us are buying some sort of banners or something, advertising type stuff. A lot of us are giving out freebies and that kind of stuff. So people want to factor all that in and then look at how much money they have in their pocket when the show ends and be like, okay, I broke even, or I came out to the good. But again, you can't measure that completely as a success or not a success. I've always tried to, not worry as much about how much we actually make at the show, and worry more about the impact that we're going to be making over the next, several months from the people that were at the show. Because, like, we've had people literally at shows even like a year later that would be like, oh man, I came by last year and I really liked it, but I didn't pick one up and I regretted it ever since. And this year have we not, like, multiple
we
times?
have.
Like, and sometimes people will do that. They'll wait like the whole year and pick one up from you in person the next time they see you or whatever. So it's like, and had they not ever come by that first year, some people just take longer to decide. It takes, they have to think about it a while, or they just strictly don't have the money right then to spend on it. So they just have to wait till they do, and it can definitely pay dividends down the road. So don't think that your show was a total success or failure based on what you go home with at the end of the show, because that's only part of the story.
I am curious to see what attendance looks like this year.
Mm-hmm.
I can't get like, I feel like there's tickets available when there's not normally tickets available, and
Yeah,
so or maybe they release more tickets.
that's right.
Not really sure.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm curious to see what the attendance looks like.
I agree. We've been talking about it, and we're a little bit anxious and, but honestly, afraid attendance is going to be down a little bit. However, I mean, we're just basing that off the stuff we're seeing, like you said, like ticket sales, early bird tickets and stuff. Seems like they've got some left later than they typically do, but at the same time, not going to no sense in being shy about it. Blade Show, the people that put on Blade Show are definitely there to make money as well. And it would not surprise me if they just released more tickets this year in an attempt to, kind of bring in some more money, or maybe people they were getting lots of complaints because, people do get upset when they don't get to get in on the early bird stuff. So it might not necessarily be that they're doing it just to make more money. They may have just felt like,
but releasing, I mean, early bird tickets are kind of for a reason. Like if you make them available to everybody, then
yeah, you can't
that kind of defeats the purpose of it.
I would think you would probably, if it were me, I would probably come up with a percentage of how many people I expected to, like how many people we had there last year, and then, okay, we're going to sell 5% or 10% or whatever of that number as early bird tickets next year, or something like that. I don't know. I'm not a show, whatever you call them.
You're not a planner.
I'm not. Yeah, I'm not a show planner at this point. So
you are definitely not a planner.
not a whole lot of a planner. Period. I'm way more of a fly by the seat of your pants kind of guy, but I'm working on it. There's stuff that we need to plan out more. So, all right. So let's see. That's kind of pet peeves, and we talked a little bit about what we like about the show. So we talked about getting to talk to customers. So let's name off something else that we like about going to the shows.
Well, doing this for so many years, we've made tons of friends in the industry. So I really look forward to seeing all of not only our customers, but our friends. Some of them are customers, but also the other vendors, the other knife makers and dealers, and everybody that's in our little network.
And it's most of those people that are our friends in that world are people that we only get to see at shows. Typically, there's a couple of them that we get to see a time or two, maybe outside of shows, but most of them we pretty much just see at shows. So it's it's always nice to be able to go and catch up with people. Unfortunately, we never have enough time to catch up with everybody. Like there's people we miss every time, and there's people that we don't get to spend any money. A lot of times it's a quick how you doing and a hug and off we go, and then we maybe don't even get to talk to them again the rest of the show. But it's it is what it is. We're all there working, so all of with the other vendors and stuff, and then even the friends or customers, they've got other friends and other people there that they like to support too. So it's not like everybody's got multiple people to try to see and nobody manages to see everybody. So but
it is a little bit easier at some of these smaller shows than
it is.
I mean, Blade Show, I feel like
it's just crazy.
Try to keep our head above water. But this show, Salt Lake, they both kind of are small enough that we actually do get to see.
Yeah. A little more relaxed.
Yeah.
And it's just not so big. I mean, Atlanta is, you can get everybody kind of gets lost in the crowd to a certain extent. And it's, it can be hard to even get from our booth to the bathroom and back sometimes, fighting through the crowd and all that, which I love having big crowds. That's great. But it definitely does cause some logistical issues sometimes. So and then catching somebody else, there's tons of times we'll go by and like, say we take a bathroom break and her and I walk up and we're coming back from the bathroom and maybe we're going to swing by so-and-so's booth and see them real quick. But then you get to their booth, they're almost there. Either they're not there because they've run to the bathroom or somewhere, or they're busy talking to customers and stuff. You don't want to interrupt. So you just kind of keep going. And so but on the positive side of it, that is definitely probably the best thing about doing shows, even better than selling knives and everything else, is getting to see our friends on both.
That was my thing. What's your thing?
Oh, let's see. So I kind of already mentioned it a little bit. Well, number one, like I wouldn't be a knife freak without saying that it's awesome to get to go there and be surrounded by tons of knives, because that is fantastic. I don't get to look at them as much as I would like. Yeah. It's a lot of it's just kind of a glance, and sometimes I'll get lucky and, other customers or friends will come up to the table and show me stuff that they've picked up, which is always great. But still, even if I'm not getting to stop and look at them in depth, a lot of times still I'm always eyeballing as we're walking back and forth, just wherever, like I said, going to get a snack or the restroom or something like that. So I love getting to see all the knives, get surrounded by it. I always, like I said, between talking to people and seeing all the other cool stuff that everybody else is doing, I usually come back fairly creatively inspired and ready to kind of crank on some new stuff. That's one of my favorite things. Uh, it's probably my outside of the people. Since you took that one, I'd say that's probably my next favorite thing is just getting to see all the different the knives and stuff that I wish I could do more of it. But and I think just the energy of it in general too, because everybody, it's just it's
It is definitely a positive,
yes,
happy, feel good energy.
it is. It's and guys, those of you maybe have never been to, especially a bigger knife show, like it's so weird. Like, and we discovered this years and years and years ago. But like, you'll walk around in a knife show and you see, number one, it's a very eclectic crowd. There are all kinds of people there. Now you got kind of like your, stereotypical dudes, I guess, like dudes like me that are walking around that, tattoos and beards and whatever that you kind of expect to be knife guys. But then you got all kinds. You got doctors and lawyers and nerds and blue collar guys and like every kind. You got eccentric people walking like for real, like people in all kinds of. Sometimes it almost feels like a costume show.
There are typically a few furries that comes
There's
out.
a couple of furries here and there. Hey, they like knives. I'm not. We're just gonna.
I think they're typically like the Baylesson
Yeah, they tend to
group.
hang out in the Baylesson crowd for the most part. It seems like, and I feel like some of the kind of like dress up thing has maybe died down a little bit in the last few years. Maybe I just got kind of immune to it and just not seeing it, noticing it as much. But you'll have a crowd of guys that's walking around in kilts. You'll have people like dressed up almost like Vikings and stuff. You'll have carrying around big broadswords. Like it's all kinds of stuff.
More like knife con instead of.
Yeah, sometimes just yeah, kind of like a knife con instead of a knife show. But it's interesting. But I say all that to say, if you walked into that crowd, well, even though there's all types, typical crowd is, you know, dudes with tatted up, a lot of them, beards, that kind of stuff. And you might think, man, this is like a rough crowd. But it is the nicest bunch of people that you could ever possibly want to be around. Like when our daughter was younger, as we were doing the shows early on, at first she was young enough when she started going with us that, you know, she didn't we wouldn't let her go to the even the bathroom or stuff like that by herself. As she got just a little bit older and as we started to learn the people there better and all that, like we were not at all afraid to let her, you know, in that big crowded building, let her go to the bathroom by herself, stuff like that, because
She would even like go back and forth to the hotel room.
yeah, yeah, well, yeah, inside the because she didn't have to leave the actual building because we were staying in the Renaissance. But yes, we let her once she was old enough, we would let her go. Had we been somewhere else, I would not have been comfortable with that, even at that age. But because of where we were, like we knew that all she had to do was like holler, and it would have been like it'd been like she had 200 bodyguards. Like everybody there would have been like not because of who she was, like they wouldn't have known who she was. I'm just saying, like just that's the kind of people that are there. Like there's no way that somebody's going to get away with doing something nefarious like that there that messing with a kid or something and come out of it okay. So really, really good bunch of people, despite how some of us may look. Like there's a lot of, like I said, normal looking people there, but then even the guys that are a little rougher looking or whatever, they're just really, really good people. Like it's kind of crazy how much our industry attracts such really good, kind people. So that's one of my favorite things about it too, is just seeing the quality of people that are attracted to the shows. So that's that's always very pleasant to see. Let's
I
see.
have one more thing that gets on my nerves.
Okay, back to a pet peeve.
You. Y'all, he changes what he wants to do with the table and booth every single time. It can
That's
never
fair.
stay the same. He loves it, loves it, loves it, and then he hates it, hates it, hates it.
Yeah.
It is so, and he waits until the last minute typically to say, I don't like this anymore. We're going to do something different. And I'm a planner. organization person and you are like not. And so I need to know that we have everything that we need and like we're not going to do anything crazy at the last minute. And we always do something crazy at the last minute.
I think I've gotten a little bit
No,
better.
you haven't.
Well, to be fair, last year in Atlanta, went from a single booth to a double booth, so we had to make changes. That
You
was
still would have made changes.
probably. I'm not changing anything for Texas this year, for this upcoming show. Like we've got our banners, we've got our tablecloths. I think everything's pretty much set. Going to use the same little knife stands to hold the knives. I don't know of anything that I've changed. But now that you've said it, I'll start thinking about it.
And if we actually make it to this show and he doesn't change something, this is the first one in all those 18 years that he hasn't.
Yeah, yeah. And I see other guys. I know other makers that like their table has looked pretty much exactly the same, like the same tablecloth, same,
I love
stuff.
consistency.
And I just never, it's not necessarily that I'm changing it for change's sake. I can just never get it to look. I'll have something that I think's a great idea one year, and then I get there and I see it in person or it just doesn't work. Like we did different things with price tags and stuff like that. We tried at one point, we laser engraved aluminum plates and put them in front of them with the prices on them. And then people would still not see that. And it's like a business card type thing. And then people would still not see it and ask the price. Not that we mind telling people the price, but we were trying to make it as easy on customers as possible. And nothing we've ever done has really solved that issue. So we've gone from, no price tags to
The ones
big
that
price
started
tags
using
to
in Atlanta last year were
the
the stickers that stick
yeah,
around the clip
yeah,
because the other ones had a string, so like they kept getting cut off and
yep. Keep getting cut off, which was kind of nice because it was like a proof of how sharp they are. When somebody would cut one off, they'd be like, "Oh."
yeah, but then they felt bad about cutting it off.
Yeah,
So
yeah. So yeah, we tried. Yeah, so some of the changes have been kind of practical, needed to make, but even just the way it looks, the overall aesthetics of the booth and stuff. Yeah, I've definitely always been bad about never being satisfied with it. So, maybe one day I'll come up with a winning formula that I'll be happy with, but probably not. I'll probably keep tweaking stuff. So we'll see. But I think we do have a decent plan for Texas. Texas is pretty simple. Texas and Utah both, we basically take a couple of folding tables, uh, put our uh, logoed tablecloths on them, set the knives up. This year it'll just be a matter of figuring out how we're going to set it up as far as fixed blades kind of on one table and folders on another table, that kind of stuff. But yeah, we'll use the same big banner in the back as we did last couple of shows. So that's been another thing. Like you used to cannot get the big like fabric banners that you could just have images printed on. Not that I know of. Everything was like vinyl. And then those, I'd get one made. And the other thing too, I'd do one year and then I wouldn't be happy with like the way I did the logos on it or the color scheme, or I'd want to do something different as far as the just kind of layout of it. I don't know. Yeah. 100%. I've never been able to stay totally happy with any of that. But I don't feel like I'm changing stuff as much now. Maybe.
Okay, whatever.
All right. So I'll tell you a pet peeve or two I see other makers doing. And I'll say this as a word of advice. I mean, it's their business. They can do it however they want to. And Chase and I have touched on some of this. But I hate when people don't seem interested in talking to their customers when they're sitting down behind their table and just acting uninterested.
In all fairness, for the first several years it shows, like I did the talking because you didn't, it wasn't that you weren't interested in talking to them. You didn't know how.
Yeah.
Like
I wasn't
you
good
weren't
at it.
used to that world. And so
Yeah.
that may be the same with them.
Maybe some of them, but some of them are literally, but I was at least standing up, approachable. I mean, my face might not have looked approachable, but I just wasn't good in public stuff like that. I've worked on that. I hopefully have gotten better. But I'm talking about people that are like sitting behind the table, either engaged in conversation with somebody else behind the table and won't even look up when somebody walks up, or they're on their phone and don't even look up when somebody walks up, like literally looking disinterested at even talking to customers. And then, probably a lot of those are the same ones complaining because they didn't sell out. So that always bugs me. I always hate to see, back to what we were talking about with Blade Show and their rules. We try to get a chance, especially if we sell out or we're getting toward the end of the show or something, or maybe towards the end of the day each day. We try to take a little bit of time here and there and go walk around. I mean, that's part of it. Like I said, we want to see our friends. We want to network. We need to do all that stuff. That's part of being at the show for us too. But there's always been people that have been, their stuff would be popular and they'll sell out, quickly. And
sometimes before the show even starts.
Sometimes before the show even starts, which is kind of another pet peeve of, again, you're not just there to literally just to sell knives. Like you're there to deal with customers and talk to customers. And so if you're selling all your knives in a hotel room the night before, so you can just go and hang out and not even be at your booth or your table all day at the, any of the days at the show, like that's just like, why are you even having a table? Like I don't get it. But people that'll sell out quickly and then basically they don't spend any time at their table for the rest of the show, then they're just out doing their thing, which again, that's fine. It's their prerogative, it's their business. But I've always felt guilty to spend time away from the table because people are paying money to be there, not just to buy knives, but they're paying money to get to interact with the makers or the designers or the the owners of the company or whatever. And so like I feel like I'm kind of cheating them on that if I don't spend a very reasonable amount of time at the table. It kind of sounds stupid for me to even say like, oh, people there talk to me, but it is not because I'm anybody, but just, I can answer their questions about stuff that they may have or show them something, whatever. Like it's part of it, and I feel like people that don't take that part seriously are kind of cheating their customers out of part of the experience of coming to a show. And some of the customers don't mind as long as they can pick up their grail or whatever. They can get in on the knife that they want. That's fine. They're not worried about that. But lots of them do want to get to talk to the representatives from the company. And so, walking by an empty table is just, it's not cool, to me. But again, to each his own. But we've always, probably to our own detriment, have always tried to spend as much time at the table as possible, and probably should get out and network a little bit more. And she might not feel quite as drained if I let her get out from behind the table a little more. To be fair, she can go roam as much as she wants to. She just doesn't usually do it without me. So, I'm not usually willing to stay out from behind the table for too long. So that's kind of the way that goes. I got another positive. This is kind of about logistically at the show. One thing that has improved greatly over the last few years at all the shows is the food. But not just like the availability of it and stuff. Cause like probably the first decade or more that we did Blade Show when we were just doing Atlanta, like, I mean, there was nothing. Like there was no food vendors there, or there might be.
They used to open that little snack shop in the back, right? But it was
At
like
one
hot
point,
dogs
yeah,
and
it'd be like hot
popcorn
dogs and popcorn, maybe if you were lucky, maybe some nachos, but very, very little. I'm pretty sure there were times when there was no vendors there inside or outside either.
But we always, always, always have people offering to bring us food.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
not like we can't get food.
No, yeah, for sure. It's not, it ain't like, I mean, we're close to starving to death. But the convenience of being able to run out and meet, hey, I'm going to go grab us some food from back here. And it's just literally right outside the doors. We got multiple different choices now in Atlanta, or, usually at the other ones, there's like a snack bar somewhere that you can go and hit like that. That is really nice, because especially when you're trying to, just sneak in a few bites real quick in between talking to customers and stuff. If it's not just a whole ordeal to go get food, that's really nice. I've enjoyed that. It's made it logistically much nicer for us the last several years as that's gotten better. So that's been a plus. You see where my mind's at, thinking about
I
eating.
thought you were going to say garbage cans.
Well, that's one too. I have had complaints a time or two with not having enough garbage cans out, because like we try to be good people and police up, clean up after ourselves and all that, so we don't leave a bunch of trash in the booth and stuff when we leave. But if you can't find a garbage can, it can make it kind of difficult, and go halfway across the big old convention center just to get to a garbage can. But I can only think of like maybe one show that we did where that was an issue. They typically do a good job of that. So, trying to think, you got anything else you can think of, good, bad, or ugly, about shows?
I don't think so.
All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about this show specifically then. Like, we've got some really cool stuff that we're bringing, and we've got some of it we haven't even shown yet. We'll probably tease most of it out between now and then, but we've got some brand new stuff.
Lots of new stuff.
Lots of new stuff that like there's going to be several variations of the show that we've never even shown yet. So, of 3-inch Dixons, we're not going to have a lot of 3.5-inch just because just the way the timing worked to getting blades back from heat treat. I don't think we're going to be able to have very many, but the ones that we have, most if not all of them, will be the new rock texture. So that's technically it's still very much brand new, but it has been seen. But there's some stuff we're doing on the 3-inch and the Dixons that has not been seen yet. So really excited about that, and we're going to have some fixed blades there. We'll have at least a couple of different versions of fixed blades. We'll have ridge runners in some Cerakoted varieties. We're going to have some regular plain varieties. We'll have at least a couple of the ringed agents, and we're going to have another new model that we've kind of teased it a little bit, but a new model that we're kind of debuting that we'll be showing more of very soon, a new fixed blade. I'm not sure if we're going to have any of those to sell because we literally only have a couple of them done. We're probably just going to have one or two for people to look at and get a feel for them before we actually start, so we can get some more done and start dropping them. But yeah, so a whole lot of cool stuff that we'll have on hand.
And before we even make it to Texas, Tuesday we have our St. Patty's Day drop, which is going to be a very limited drop.
Yep. Yep, it is. I'm doing my best to get this podcast edited and posted before the drop so that this actually does you some good to hear it. But yeah, it's going to be, if you're listening to this podcast, we'll give you the little extra scoop here. It's going to be, we've got some 3-inch Mac 2s with our green bronze anode with the shamrocks engraved on them, and these are milled engraving, not laser engraved, and then Dixons that will have the same thing.
Similar to the ones from last year that were the 3.5-inch.
Yeah,
but there are no 3.5-inch this year.
Yeah, no. Again, we didn't get blades back in time for heat treat to be able to do the 3.5s, but we will have Dixons and 3-inch that will be selling. We've only got a very small handful of each to drop Tuesday. So if you're interested in those, definitely be ready and jump on those. All right. Well, I guess the next one we can probably do a little wrap up of the show, and depending on if there's some really exciting stuff to talk about, we can make a whole episode out of it. If not, I think we've had a couple of questions that we've gotten sent in through various places, the email and through Instagram, that we'll maybe try to address, and I think can spark some good conversation. On that note, guys, please send us comments. They can even be bad ones. I don't care. But just send us comments and stuff or questions. You can send them into our email. That's knifefreakshow.com. Right? Knifefreakshow.
It's at Gmail.
At gmail.com. I'm sorry. knifefreakshow@gmail.com. So yes, that's the email. You can always comment on YouTube or on the Spotify, and we'll read those. And suggestions for stuff you want to hear. We're going to be lining up some more guests for the podcast. Some of them we're going to try to get nailed down while we're at the show, actually, this weekend. So
we'll be skipping next week.
Yeah, next week we will not have podcast because we'll be at the show all weekend. But so we'll probably have a full week skip there, and then we'll jump back in, do a little recap of the show, and like I said, dive into maybe answering some of these questions. Or we may have a guest lined up for that. Just depends on how the timing works out. So we really appreciate you guys. Like I said, questions, comments, everything, please send those in. We really appreciate it if you would share the show. Send it to somebody. It doesn't take but just a second, a couple of taps on your phone or whatever to try to send it to a friend or somebody that you think might appreciate it. We'd love to grow the show and make it a little bit bigger. And the more people we've got, the more people there's going to be to send in questions and stuff, and kind of the more interesting it will make it. It also makes it easier for us to get guests on here, especially some of the, maybe bigger fish type guests that want to go on a podcast that has a decent amount of people listening to it. So it will help us and it will help you, because we'll be able to get more people on here if we've got a good following. So we appreciate you guys. Look forward to seeing all of you that are going to be at the Texas show. And please, by all means, don't be shy. Come up and talk to us. Check out the knives, and we'll see you all there.
See ya.